Max to Summoner's Rift, G2 Hell on the blue side against Chroma on the red. Myself and Dude are here to cast this second semi-finals of the day. How are you feeling, my dude?
I'm feeling ready right now, Sofchan. I can't lie to you because this is my first outing onto 12-10. Obviously, these players had a little bit of an experience yesterday tasting it. For Big Chroma, I might have to hold the point here because they're planning something a little bit spicy. They've got 5 people on this top side. If somebody steps a bit too far forward, they may get punished. Doesn't like that's going to be the case. But you can see early on, one of the questions posed by Jay before we got into the game was, what are Big going to do? Are they going to look to punish it or look to use the mid lane and get a bit of a lead? Or are they going to look to punish on that bot side? And for the moment, Vixen playing very respectfully. Those items, the Doran shield and the Conqueror as well, suggest that we're going to be sitting back and scaling quite significantly.
I agree with you. That might be a little more pressure in the bot lane, as you mentioned earlier. And with that, you can just enable that Kassadin. You mentioned the matchup against the Seraphine is not going to be particularly spicy. It's going to be rather calm. When you get the level 6 on the Kassadin, make sure to roam, make sure to try to deny the Zeri, the Lulu, and that could lead to a very good lead. At the same time, I would also enjoy seeing some pressure in the beginning of the game as well. I think that G2 deserves, because of how much they know they can put out, that they deserve to be a little bit on the back foot.
Yeah, and you can see that Tifa's also recognizing that a little bit. Starting out with the tier, it is 0 laning stats other than the mana. You know, you're scaling up alongside that Zeri, hopefully, fairly quickly. And the sort of X factor that I don't think we've really touched on so far was that top side of the Rift. Crow versus Lesia, tank versus a carry, so it is very much hoping that Crow can stay relevant while Lesia has that early game laning power, and then once the late game comes through, Crow going to be dealing out way more damage. Lesia, of course, providing those items. She's going to be helping out in the frontline department as well.
You know something I love, dude? The fact that we have a Lucian Nami and we didn't even mention them. It's just something that is so yeah, we have to forget. It's just something so predictable, right? Something so safe, so consistent. You're just like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it just exists. And as much as, again, this is one of those questions that you have to pose to sort of every player at this point is, would you rather a game of Lucian Nami every time, or a meta with Lucian Nami every game, or a meta with Zeri Lulu every game? And unfortunately, we've got both. So it's the real worst outcome, honestly.
Yeah, you're not wrong. At the same time, I'm seeing here that Big Chroma are really putting some pressure in how they position in the lane to try to deny the farm for counters, because we know that the Zeri is going to have a little bit of a rough time because the auto attack is going to hit the first minion, the first enemy that encounters. So they're doing a good job here. As you would expect from a Lucian Nami, they have to be aggressive.
And starting with the cull as well for Xavi down on that bot side. She's going to hit her mid-game spike that little bit faster, of course, when you finish it. We have got Trez, though. She's lurking in the bot side.
Yes, she is. She's going in, but oh, there is the flash into the stun and the bubble.
Beautiful.
Wow. That was indeed frame it. Put it on my wall.
Really good layering of the CC there. Trez, she flashes forward, slammed into the wall. Colombia not respecting with their own flash, and the bubble timing from Lumi really well played as well to secure first blood. It didn't quite go onto the Lucian, but that won't really be of too much consequence for Big Chroma. First blood down on that bot side, and we said throwing hands in the early game might be a way to disrupt the more clinical nature of G2. That's exactly what Trez has done here.
I love to see that that's the case, and it's worked, right? Because sometimes we do try to see something happening, we attempt it, and sometimes it just doesn't quite land. It did. Speaking of landing, everything landed. The CC and chain was incredible, as you said, dude. And I think that it's lovely to see that they've come into this sort of attitude, because I mentioned G2 need a little bit of reality, right? They have the help from the fans. They've got even all of us here on the desk saying that they are the favorites. So it's impeccable to see that they started Big Chroma with that opening in the bot lane.
I want to credit a little bit more of Trez's pathing right here. Came up to defend his defend her second spawn of Raptors, excuse me, just to make sure that we don't see Sheena find her way back into that jungle matchup. Obviously very early that she found that gank down on that bot side and making her presence felt there very early on, and now defending, like I say, that second spawn of Raptors means that she stays ahead of the curve and then can go back and clear down on that bot side. Maybe level 1 camps, but defending those second spawns is a lot more important, and he's incredibly smart.
I agree. I think that it's super important for you to defend your jungle when you know that there's a Nocturne. It's the nature of that champion to be so aggressive, to be looking for breaches into the darkness and getting something out of the fog of war. So it's what you would expect from a good jungle pathing here. We have noticed as well that Big Chroma is pushing quite hard in the bottom lane. The first Drake has spawned, but Nocturne is also around the corner.
And I like that you mentioned this Nocturne as well, because the power of Nocturne, pre-level 6, very much known, and known for being bad. Although we do see Sheena making her way down here, and this is a pretty good example of why Nocturne's power pre-level 6 is pretty poor, because that's about as good a gank as you can hope for.
Yeah, I think it's more on the side of if there's a 1v1, the Nocturne can do well. You have the Elixir Temple, you're going to have some sort of upper hand. But of course, I agree with you. There's no gank that can come out of a pre-level 6. No paranoia, no problem at all. But it's going to be G2 having full control over this river for the first Drake of the game.
Yeah, priority pushed in mid lane. Seraphine going to be very good at establishing wave control versus a Kassadin. And of course, the Zeri Lulu got a bounce back. They were able to push in a wave under the turret. And this is just great timing from the G2 side. More of that clinical nature that we've come to associate with them. Knowing that I've got this window where my waves are going to be pushed in. Really good from Sheena. She knows I've got a time to go take the Drake. Even calls over the spot side laners to help on out. And that first Drake of the game, going to go the way of G2 Hell.
The only thing that could have been better than what we just saw from G2 in regards to controlling objectives is if Sheena had gotten the level 6 on that Drake. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They still have to go to the Krugs, and they're going to potentially go back here if there is a opportunity. Considering how Counters is controlling the lane, they really want to look forward to it. Oh, there you mind it. Never mind. They're back. They're recalled. Don't listen to me.
It does not matter. We get into the base, we get out of the base, as long as those items are getting bought in a steady enough manner, we're generally speaking absolutely fine. And I was curious to see what Sheena would go for. Obviously, patch 12.10 has had a bit of a Yomu's issue going on throughout the duration of it, but Sheena opted into this Heartbound Axe, suggests that we're going to be looking toward that more obnoxious front line as opposed to I will one-shot your AD carry style of Assassin Nocturne.
And it makes sense as well, because I believe that if you go for something like that, you just leave your backline so open for the Kassadin, for the Gwen, even for the Lucian. So you got to be a little more careful about it. And that's one thing that we've noticed with all the ladies in the tournament so far, Rudude, is that all of them really know that what happens in the draft dictates just a part of how you're going to play. When you go into the game, that's when you decide the pathing of the build you go for. And that's what you said. It's not going to be going to the backline and assassinate. It's going to be a little more defensive, a little bit more frontline focused.
Using that paranoia to disrupt an engagement from Big as opposed to just trying to find somebody who's a little bit caught out. You can still use it for that side lane, and of course, you can find a very decent advantage if you're looking to extend on over extended members of Big, but they've got themselves an advantage down on this bot side now. First plate of the bot side laning phase does go to Big Chroma, so Xavi and Lumi making good on that early gank from Trez. She's going to be happy to see that the investment is indeed getting rewarded. But G2, they've got a bit of a skirmish going on in the top lane, and specifically around this Herald as well. These neutral objectives, whilst that first blood... Oh, we've had a kill. Okay. Whoa, wow.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Wow. What I was thinking, dude, is how we had the camera here, noticing what was actually important on the screen. And this time around, we do see the kill happening. It was very close. We saw Lysia controlling the top lane there, having the 1v1 with Chromac. And we ended up missing that kill on the bot lane. I wish we could have seen what happened. But still, it's the position and stance of aggressiveness that Big knows that they can have. It came to fruition, at least because they knew that Nocturne was nowhere to be seen.
I'm happy in general with how Big took that fight, though. You have to recognize how the thought process behind it. Okay, we can really infer that on that top side, Sheena's taking the Rift Herald. So what do? We make a play on the bot side of the map. And Countess and Colombia did get caught out. They were the price that had to be paid for that Rift Herald. We'll now have to wait and see who comes out on the best end of that, because so far it's an even trade, right? 2 kills for 2 kills. Yes, the advantage, I suppose, going to G2 because they get the Rift Herald as well. But if G2 can make a really good Rift Herald play, they can potentially offset all of the disadvantages that Caltis and Colombia are currently experiencing. This wave, not in a good spot for them, and I love that Trez is just hovering.
Yes, they are. They're going to go into this one. They're going to have to land the stun. They managed to do it because there was no shield there from Nocturne, but they flash forward with a shield this time around. They're going to get onto Lumi. There's it. There it is, the kill. Kartis is going to try to finish Xavi off, but the help from Crow has arrived. Kartis is, well, committed. You know you're going to die at this point. But very interesting. Do you want to break that down for me, Rudude? Because we saw both junglers hovering. How did that happen?
Yeah, well, everybody knew that this bot lane was going to be the play, so great recognition from Sheena and Trez. Trez, absolute mad behavior there, smiting under the turret. She might get punished.
Yeah, might get punished indeed. You're going to have the help from everyone here. Colombo might go down. They end up not going. There
You know,
when you know you overextend, you just send an emote. That's just how it is.
as much as she died for that, I would have done the exact same thing to interrupt her recall. So, you know, respect put on the name of Trez, because
respect is true.
like I say, would have probably done the same thing. I see somebody recalling in front of me, I'm smiting them. They're not getting that recall off. But I like that we're seeing a lot of action already through these early stages of the game. And Big there, they had the upper hand. They found a TP down into that bot side, killing Kaltis once again on the Zeri, slowing down the scaling of this AD carry who's going to be a menace through that late game. And it was Chromac TPing in, sacrificing a little bit of her top lane matchup, but to turn the kill and turn the play around. Went 1-for-1 down on that bot side, and then unfortunately the overextension from Trez cost her life. Once the play had sort of subsided. But a second Drake now going over to G2 Hell, and these neutral objectives, they may not look to be all that important individually, but slowly, surely, when more and more start stacking up, we're expecting to see this Soul have a really big outcome on the game.
Speaking of Soul, we have a Chem Tech Soul that's going to be confirmed for the game. Very interesting what that can lead, because you're going to have the extra boost there on the plants in the jungle, the Blasco in the division. Everything is going to be a little more easy to movement, easy to see. And I think that overall, I agree with you. It might not mean something that big right now, but G2 guaranteeing all the objectives so far really shows how they are focusing the game. And speaking of focus, we got Sheena once again here in a bot lane, but so is Trez. We'll see how this one is going to go. You have the Fog of War, but there is a ward just there, and they do the Hextech Flash, but just to bait it out, we're not going to go into any action. There's still a detection ward on both bushes here, but the vision is going to be used by Trez, as I mentioned. A little bit more of that can control better the jungle. Everyone gets spotted and nothing to come out of fruition.
Looks like the Herald's going to go down. Sheena wanting to make good on the sort of abandonment that she's done down on this bot side through the early stages of the game, right? No real ganks, and we did see Trez find a couple of successful ones down there. Unfortunately, it's only going to be the Herald's charge, so it is just gold onto Sheena, not really giving too much gold back to Kaltis. It's nice to see that Trez and Xavi are stepping up to deny Zeri from picking up that gold. And there is still an advantage down on this bot side, significantly, for Xavi and Lumi. That Storm Razor finished for the Lucian versus just the components of the Trinity Force at the minute. Hoping to see some, well, honestly, more punishment from this Lucian Nami on the bot side.
I was going to mention a very similar thing as well, Rudude, and I think overall this bot lane on both sides has been very respectful. I know that we have seen Big Chroma denying those bits of moments where you know that is going to be a charge of the Herald, then you deny them to get the gold. Perfect. But at the same time, they're just doing those things. We haven't seen them be that aggressive. You already have a Storm Razor for the Lucian. The call is completed. They have a BS sword as well. So it's so much damage that they are able to do. I would expect that to transform into something more. And maybe that is what this rotation is, getting the Lucian into the mid lane.
I think it's transferring that lead into hopefully a second Herald, and it should be a fight around this third dragon. They've hit a really big spike, at this sort of 2-3 minute marker, because they've completed that cull, as you mentioned, got that extra little bit of damage in the top side as well. We are just seeing Chromac, she's finished her cull as well, went back to base and got that off of the first reset, knowing that this online was going to be very farm centric. But if she can get back to base, find another big item spike before the next skirmish unfolds, it's going to mean that Big Chroma, whilst the overall gold lead may not look too significant, they've got some sizable advantages in the important lanes, that top side and the bot side.
And it's the setup that you're going to have for the objectives, right? And that's the one thing that we mentioned that G2 had been able to accomplish. But we see that Big Chroma also are keeping tracks of that. It's important to see that when there was the case that G2 got the objectives, it was because Big recognized it wasn't a good place for them to engage. Engaging is what Xavi wants to do here on Sheena. Quite a lot of damage. And you have the Kassadin. There you go. Not only do you get the kill, but also the shutdown. Very well done.
And if there's one champion I hate to see getting shutdowns, it's Kassadin, right? Vixen, she hasn't died yet this game, has actually got 2 kills and is also ahead of Tifa in gold. Now Trez gets to move into this mid lane with that second Herald secured. She was able to pick that up as we'd thought they would be. And they do, and it's Big that do a really good job at shutting down the cross map. They knew, hey, last time when we saw G2 go for a Herald, we played for a kill on the bot side. Likelihood is G2 are going to try and pull the same trick that we just did, but they're wise to it. Xavi moves in, Vixen steps up, and that potential paranoia from Sheena on the bot side of the map completely thwarted and turned around in favour of Big.
And very well executed, isn't it, Verdude? I think that we saw the positioning from the bot lane with Xavi, with Lumi, being a little more, not going to say careful, but determined. They knew what they wanted to do, they knew when they wanted to engage, and it's going to be paranoia onto Chromac, but there's a TP on the back, there you go. It's going to be Vixen, who has the Kassadin, strong as it is, falling very low in health, actually, while they're trying to go on Lysia. They have the Crow going down as they get the Ornhorn onto Kassadin, really pressuring them away, but maybe Vixen is still a little bit interested in something, at least pressuring out this wave, because Blue might be left alone. We'll see how that's going to go. They are going, chasing them down in the jungle. We see Nocturne also disengaging, so it's, Lulu, you better run.
Drake spawned just this minute. Good bubble there stops Lysia from making a particularly aggressive play, but this is a 4 versus 5 for the time being. Chromac, she's got teleport, will be able to join the squad down on this bot side. No Call the Forge God, no Paranoia. So team fights for G2 a little bit more difficult. They importantly have still got that lightning rush on Kaltis, and Tifa still has that encore, very game-changing ultimate. TP's coming in from Chromac. They want to take this fight.
They do. You're going to have Vixen in the front line, actually. We're going to go for Tidal Wave 2. There's a lot of knockups happening, but not that much damage. Lysia on the front line really tanking everything as they have switched priority from this movement here on the Drake. It's going to get reset just barely. There you go. It's going to get reset. You have the damage from Xavi locking as well, but then it's a cleanse that goes away. Poppy gets the whole entire team of G2 out of the map. They still have vision because of the plans from the Hex deck. So they're going to go in. The Paranoia goes with the ulti for Kaltis as well. We'll see if there's going to be enough damage. There we go. It's going to be the smite from Sheena. They end up going down, but it was definitely super important for them to guarantee that soul point. Scout is still kiting away. They are going to go over the wall, safe to their turret, and they guarantee a very turnaround victory on the Drake pit.
Okay, so 3 dragons to 0 now for G2 Hell, but Big Chroma looking like they're winning out on these fights. Unfortunately, G2 are still going to be happy with that. They put themselves on Soul Point, and now in 5 minutes time, when Big are obligated to go for that dragon, G2 have got the option of saying, you take that dragon, we're going to start to pressure Baron. Their control of the map actually goes up quite significantly when both neutral objectives are alive, because they no longer have to care too much for the dragons. One single Drake that goes the way of Big isn't going to change the game all that much in favour of Big Chroma, so G2 don't have to care about it. And a great little sort of foreshadowing of how these fights are looking to unfurl, because Big didn't have any flank angles. They were using Vixen and Chromac in the front line to try and walk through Lysia. They can't particularly do that. It's not too easy. Kaltis, when there's that front line there, is able to do so much damage. We need to see Chromac and Vixen try and generate these flank angles, buy some sweepers, buy some pinks, get into a different position on the map, and try and catch the G2 backline off guard.
On the other hand, Verdude, I think that Big has established a good position for themselves in regards to gold. They are ahead. How are they ahead? That is just solely on keeping out very good farm, and they've kept the kill score as well, 5 to 6. It's not that big of a difference. So they are really keeping a good position. So Kassadin could pop off. They are the ones who have 2-0 on their score. One of the biggest CSs on the board. And that could turn into basically devastating. The Kassadin is now on level 12. When he gets level 16, hello? Are they able to compete?
I think that they can, G2. It's not going to be easy, don't get me wrong. They do have tools, fortunately enough, to shut down Vixen. Now, they've got Polymorph, they've got Encore, they have plenty of CC on the Ornn and Nocturne as well. So there are tools available to shut down a diver that's going in. The thing that we highlighted from the draft is that everybody on Big wants to go in. All of them are aggressive. All 5 of these champions are looking to step forward. If you polymorph the Kassadin, then guess what? That's when Chromac, she's going to step up and start demolishing Kaltis and Columbia. There's not a lot of tools that can deal with a lot of members on Big. All we need to see from Big Chroma is finally make that team fight execution work and get into a 5v5 that they can really run home with. Like that one that we saw around the Dragon, Sheena did fall, but she kind of sacrificed herself to secure the Drake. If they get into a position where Big can look a little bit more adventurously with their postures, with those flanking solo laners, it could be devastating for G2.
I agree, and I think it's a situation where if we found Big Chroma in the pits like that, even if it's Baron or Drake pits, if they position more aggressively, as you said, and they say, well, I'm not going to give you any chance to try to steal, then they have a good chance of fighting this one back. Because even though they are ahead, the cumulative buffs that G2 has, being on so point, it's very important to deny it. So I think that if they manage to do that, there's so much wiggle room to be able to come back around. On the other hand, G2, as you said, has so much CC. You have the Seraphine going to go very sustainable for the rest of the team. And is it going to be enough damage? Because so far, the Kassadin, for example, doesn't have any magic pen.
Well, for the time being, you're building up that defensive nature on Vixen. Of course, with the tier fully finished, completed, and upgraded, you now get that extra shield. No surprises that you opt into, at the very least, a stopwatch for that third item, because if you are dashing into the backline, you're going to be receiving pretty much everything that G2 have to offer. And in case we didn't make this, clear enough from the draft, the G2 composition is all about protecting Kaltis. We have 2 Enchanter solo laners, a tank in the top side, and then a utility jungler who, yes, can deal a little bit of damage, but has a bit of CC and is enabling Kaltis to pop off. If Kaltis dies, G2's hope at winning a team fight likely dies with it. That's what they're looking for on Big Chroma's side. It's find this Seri and kill it.
On the other hand, if you're G2 and how much they have been having this sort of gameplay, they are going to defend her really well. We saw yesterday as well, I think it was Lulu and Karma in the mid lane. That was absolutely insane. And as you said, we see Big Chroma going for this Drake. Not that important for G2, of course, very important for Big, but there's that wiggle room so G2 can get some more priority and vision towards the Baron pit, try to get more pushes up down those lanes in the mid and bot, potentially going for Baron soon.
With that Drake off the board, it now means that Big can step toward that Baron if they so desire, right? They've stopped the Soul going over and they've got 2 to 3 minutes now of wiggle room on the map where they can look to play toward that top side. And if they put one of their solo laners who have TP, fortunately enough they have 2, into that bot lane, they can make significant side lane plays and try and spread G2 thin enough across this map. Now the caution that you have to bear in mind when trying to play this long, or trying to play all 3 lanes, is that there is a Nocturne on the enemy team. And when you try and overextend just a little bit on one side, it can be possible for Sheena to collapse and to take you out of the game. So things to bear in mind for Big. Obviously, if you see Nocturne show up on that bot side, very likely that you head over and hit this Baron. But that's the exact plan that Sheena has opted for. The rest of G2, they've started this. They're fishing for the TP from Chromac. As soon as that comes through, they're going to look to peel away. You can see they're not too committed to this anyway. And they're actually calling the bluff right here. Big Chroma say, yeah, we don't need to TP. We're just going to see all 5 of your people on this top side. And if we'll take a fight 4 versus 5, but also we can take your turret spot lane as well.
It's a very nice trade, very strategically placed by Big Chroma, because you know what a call for Baron at this point could be. It's just too much HP to try to go for, and you're not gonna survive that long. You're going to be with health on the lower end because of tanking the buff. At this stage, Big Chroma just says, well, Just stay there, stay in the bot lane, do your thing. You have Gwen being such a powerhouse, they know when to get her to TP.
So this is actually very interesting for the narrative of these two teams. The story we had coming into this was that G2 were the much more methodical team that were going to be able to outthink Big Chroma and try and find advantages when we were looking at broad scale macro of the game. But Big Chroma have just called G2's bluff and said, you want to play around this Baron like this? Sure, go for it. And Big Chroma are the ones that came out on top. Big Chroma aren't just this team that are going to look to find 18 kills in a series and walk through with sheer violence. They've actually got that cognizance behind them as well, making these decisions correctly at the important timings on the game.
And it really shows, based on the score, for example, they are still ahead in gold. They are just 1 kill ahead, even though they are very behind in regards to objectives. That is so much macro control that they have had so far that it just shows that potentially it wasn't that much of a priority for them, or it was just a recognition that it wasn't a good moment to try to fight for an objective. They have secured the 1 deny for the soul point, and that is what they needed. So they have been playing exactly to their boundaries, and they're stacking up 15-minute. Wait, when did that happen? What? Let's go in. Let's go Paranoia. It's going to be straight onto Vixen, and they're going to get a lot of damage onto the Skassadin. The TP on the back of the pit as they're trying to recongregate. Trez is getting people around. You're still going to get Sheena while Big Chroma is starting out this Baron buff. We'll see if this is going to be denied. There's still ultis on everyone. You don't have Sheena with ulti anymore, but the on horn is going to be popped. There it is, going to knock them up, but someone, Colombo Blue, is going to be the one focused. Chromac is going to get her down, and they miss it. They miss it, but there's still enough to go in. Gasted in so many resources just onto this support as the rest of G2 is trying to fight this one around Lazy on the front line, and you have Sheena trying to take it down with counters. Has she popped her ulti? Yes, she has. They're going to try to kite away. The stopwatch is clocked, but the TP comes in. It's Tifa on the back line, and the shutdown for counters onto this Cassidon is huge. They don't even need to continue engaging. They can just stop this one, but it's a turnaround. I want to hear more from you, Vrook, dude. As before that happens, they are getting sushi. Flash over the wall, denies them the Japanese food, but the Paranoia is back. The cooldown is over. You ulti Cultist, but you immediately, you immediately take a kill. And then there's the other one, double kill for Cultist. What a long fight, Vrook, dude. G2 comes out on top.
Take a break and a bow. That fight went on way too long, but it was ultimately G2 Hell neutralizing a very scary situation. Tifa got caught out in the mid lane. Zave Lumi coming up huge to find that pick in the start of all of that. But as the fight got more and more drawn on, the first Nocturne ultimate, I should say, because there were two during that, was unsuccessful. Vixen manages to escape trying to catch a Cassidin, not particularly easy. But Kaltis also got 2 sets of ulti on the Zeri. Found nothing with the first one, and that second use of Lightning Crash managed to find a couple of kills. It neutralized the play overall. Now we get to see a soul point fight for G2. If they win this, they get the soul, and with Big nowhere near in position, they're just going to be able to take this one. Potential for Vixen to get in, not yet 16.
Not yet 16, but they're still on the flank. They're going to go in very deep. We have the tidal wave going on afterwards, but it's going to be a soul guaranteed for G2. This might is so precise, and so is the rest of the team. Countess has been focused. You have the ulti coming in, Wild Growth keeping Countess alive. The stopwatch as well on Sheena. They're caught up in between, and Gwen is dealing a lot of damage, but they're retaliating it back. Countess has the ulti popped, and now you have to fear against this Zeri. They disengage because the okay.
The Rift Walks are on too short a cooldown, and Vixen just jumps away. But this Hextech, or this Chemtech Soul, I cannot understate how powerful this is going to be. The Chemtech Drakes on their own boost healing and shielding. G2 have got 2 enchanters on their team. That is double value on the Soul as well. It means that you take less damage when you're below 50% HP. And trying to take down these G2 members just got significantly more difficult. A fight win in a 4v4 situation. Big Chroma not able to find a steal on the dragon either, and now we're getting to the point in the game, we've been at this point in the game where the really important ornament upgrades are rolling through here. Double Trinity Force upgrades for G2, both Sheena and Kaltis feeling very, very powerful on their respective champions. And with that last fight not quite going the way of Big Chroma when they had the gold lead and they had the advantage in the fight, now that there's a soul against them, now that gold is even and now ornaments are starting to stack up, the team fights look a lot more difficult to find successfully.
And all of a sudden we see G2 being very power on par with Big in regards to gold. They have been on top of objectives from moment one, but it's still going to be a very tough choice for Big to come back around. The gap is being closed. Countess is going in with the ulti. They're going on Xavi. The cleanser has been used. The on-horn goes in on the left. There it is. Trez is going to be counted. Tifa is on a bad spot as Countess is trying to fight away. Lizia taking some damage here while Gwen is on the backline. Countess go over the wall, taking down them, going on to Lumi, but they don't really have the range on it. They're still focusing on here on Trez. There's the Lucian very close. If you can get to them, that could be an immediate kill. There he goes. It's going to be wild growth onto them as well. And Countess guarantees another kill. And once again, it's the powerhouse that all the players have mentioned as one they fear. Countess coming in into an incredible finish to this fight, taking down Inhibitor turret.
And it's probably going to be the game here, Sofchan. They've got three people dead. They've got the Baron at their back, waiting for that mid-wave to crash on in. They still got 20 seconds on some really big carries from Big Chroma. Not too sure. Looks like they're just going for the bot lane tier 2 instead, or tier 2, the second of the inhibitors is what I mean to say, as 2 inhibitors is a very good standpoint for you in a game of League of Legends here. They've still got 4 minutes before the next Baron spawns. It means that they've got a lot of free time to make their map plays for the next couple of minutes. The way to win a League of Legends game when you've got 2 inhibitors down is very easy. All you have to do is go to the lane where there's no inhibitor, or where there is an inhibitor, excuse me, that you've not yet taken. The super minions will do the work for, in this case, mid lane and bot lane, and then when somebody on Big looks to answer the super minions that are crashing into Nexus turrets, you try and take a 4v5 under some turrets. It's a very nice position for G2 to find themselves in. And to emphasize this once again, it is all off the back of Kaltis stepping up hugely in these team fights.
Oh, look at her. She doesn't even care. That's the moment where Kaltis feels so confident that she can just keep on going. She's going. She's been shadowed by the rest of the team. Yeah. I'll dash into a Kassadin. She's got a shadow from Columbus Blue. She has the shadow from Sheena. They're going to try to take this one down, pushing in the turret for top lane. They're going in on Trez. It's Sheena taking some damage onto that big frontliner, that Poppy is. They're going to take the tier 2, and everything is just really getting into a victory for G2. So looks like if Big has any chance on trying to defend it, they're going to still push in with it. There's no Baron buff anymore. Yeah, they're going to have to fight it. Crow going in, but taking massive damage from Countess instead. Oh, Lumi, I fear for their health bar. Vixen trying to go on the backline, but there's the instant paranoia. Insane moves from Sheena as they're going to try to go in, but they wait for it. They wait for the exact same moment. An encore on 3 people. The triple kill for Countess. Legendary as she moves in forward for the Nexus. G2 takes this game most likely, rude dude, and there's only 2 players from Big still standing.
Vixen's going to jump forward. Nothing she can do. Kaltis is too much of a monster on this Zeri. Dashes over the Nexus, which is soon to fall. And game 1 goes to G2 Hell.
What an incredible performance for dude. And it's not because it was rampant. It's not because it was dominant from the very first